There is something happening in the sky above you today, Capricorn, that most horoscopes will completely flatten into a single throwaway line, and if you miss it, you will miss the actual shape of your Sunday. Because underneath the surface calm, there are two very different kinds of change moving through your chart right now. One is loud and long. One is quiet and fast. And the way they interact today is rare enough that it is worth slowing down for. Let us start with the slow one, because it is the one shaping your entire year, not just today. There is a Uranus in Gemini cycle currently working through your chart, and its focus is your health, your habits, and the quiet architecture of how you live day to day. Everything from what you eat and drink to the routines you have built without questioning them. Uranus does not knock politely. It tends to strip away what is no longer serving your freedom, sometimes abruptly, sometimes through a dramatic shift in how you relate to old patterns, including the ones tied to comfort or addiction. From a Western evolutionary lens, this is less about punishment and more about liberation, the universe asking you what would make you feel like you actually have room to breathe. That is the long arc. Hold on to that question because it resurfaces later today in a way you will not expect. Now, the fast-moving piece. Today, the moon sits in Aquarius, and that placement is doing something specific for you. It is lifting your mood and widening your perspective almost involuntarily. You may notice small irritations landing softer than usual, not because they are smaller, but because you are mentally positioned above them, looking at the bigger picture instead of the crack in the sidewalk. Vedic tradition, tracking the moon sign placement closely, would call this an auspicious day for optimism, with the window between 3 and 5 in the afternoon carrying extra weight for anything you want to move forward. But here is what almost every generic horoscope misses about this Aquarius moon. It is not sitting there alone. It is forming a supportive trine to Mercury, and in Western terms, that trine connects your third house of communication to your seventh house of partnership. Translation: today is not just a good mood day. It is a good conversation day, especially the kind where something practical needs to get said out loud instead of assumed. Take a breath here, because this is where today gets personal. If you have been sitting on an unclear agreement with someone, a partner, a collaborator, even a friend, this Moon-Mercury trine is quietly opening a window to fix that, not through confrontation, through clarity. Set the agenda before the conversation starts. Reflect back what you heard instead of assuming you both meant the same thing. Write the decision down if it matters. Capricorn, your instinct is often to stay quiet and let maturity look like silence, but real maturity here means saying the thing while it is still small enough to say easily. Kind clarity protects the relationship far better than polite avoidance ever will. And there is a second layer to this communication window worth watching closely. Separate but related trine. The moon in Pisces meeting Mercury in Cancer, a transit tracked closely in the sidereal tradition, suggests that a small exchange today could carry more emotional weight than its size implies. A text, an errand, a short check-in. You may notice someone remembers a detail you mentioned weeks ago without being reminded, or you may notice someone dodging a simple, direct question. Take that information seriously. Do not inflate it into a verdict, but do not wave it away either. Affection rarely announces itself with fireworks. It shows up in the small, boring consistency of someone remembering the thing that mattered to you. That theme, small signals carrying real weight, actually connects both traditions speaking to you today. Where Western astrology frames this Mercury contact as a practical communication window, the sidereal reading emphasizes the emotional resonance underneath the words. Different lenses, same message. What is said quietly today matters more than what is said loudly. If you are navigating a friendship that has felt uneven lately, this next part is for you specifically. There may still be a residue of disappointment sitting with you from someone you once trusted more easily, a friend who did not show up the way you expected. that is allowed to still sting a little. You do not have to perform being over it. What matters more right now is noticing whether your energy has been quietly low underneath a surface that seems fine. Capricorn tends to push through fatigue and call it functioning. Today, do not. Here is the good news hiding inside that caution. Saturday's Moon-Mercury trine, still lingering into your Sunday energy, put you in a team-oriented headspace, open to listening and testing new connections rather than locking into anything permanent. That is actually useful information about your social world right now. One friend might turn out to be a great fitness partner. Another might be better suited to brainstorming than deep emotional support. You are not obligated to get everything from one person. Let different relationships serve different purposes, and stop expecting one connection to carry the whole emotional load. We will come back to your relationships shortly. But first, your work life deserves a moment, because the same collaborative energy is showing up there too. Professionally, this is a listening season more than a leading one. The trine feeding your communication sector also touches how you work with others, meaning ideas move more easily when you are in a room, literal or virtual, testing synergies rather than committing to a final direction. If a project has felt stalled because you were waiting for total clarity before acting, consider that clarity might come through collaboration, not before it. Bounce the idea around. Ask the question out loud. The answer might come from someone else's perspective faster than it would from another hour of solo overthinking. That collaborative opening is worth paying attention to financially as well, and this is where a little discipline goes a long way. Money matters call for restraint right now, not because disaster looms, but because your usual grounded judgment may be slightly dulled by lower energy or unresolved relationship stress. This is not the day for a heavy investment or an impulsive purchase. Watch your spending, not out of fear, but out of respect for the version of you that will thank you next week for waiting. Here is what makes today genuinely worth paying attention to. You have a long-term liberation cycle asking you what freedom actually feels like in your body and your habits, and a same-day communication window asking you to speak clearly instead of staying silent. And those two things are actually the same lesson wearing different clothes. Freedom does not just come from removing a bad habit. It comes from removing the unspoken things too, the assumption you did not correct, the agreement you never confirmed, the feeling you swallowed instead of naming. Most people will hear this horoscope and think it is about diet or discipline. It is not really. It is about honesty as liberation. Let that settle for a second. On the health side specifically, this is a good week to notice patterns rather than force dramatic change overnight. If Uranus-driven restlessness has you wanting to overhaul everything at once, your eating, your exercise, your relationship with screens or stimulants, resist the urge to demolish and rebuild in a single weekend. Small, sustainable shifts tend to stick better under this kind of transit than sudden extremes. If you are drawn towards spiritual or Saturn-related practices, some Vedic practitioners might suggest specific remedies like mantras or particular colors for individuals whose birth charts support them. But that is chart-specific guidance, not a blanket prescription. So treat any gemstone talk you hear elsewhere with healthy skepticism, unless it comes from a full reading of your own chart. At home, expect the day's energy to soften as it moves later. A domestic, cozier mood tends to settle in by afternoon, and if your work schedule has left family or close friends feeling a little shortchanged on quality time, this is a natural window to correct that, not with a grand gesture, but with presence. Put the phone down during dinner. Being physically in the room is not the same as being there. If travel has been on your mind, do not dismiss the pull. Places like Mexico may be calling for a reason beyond simple wanderlust, though timing and budget deserve a clear-eyed look given the financial caution already on the table. Spiritually, this entire day is quietly asking you to trust that small, consistent honesty is more powerful than dramatic reinvention. For a bit of light, on-brand fun, beige carries a lucky charge for you today, and the window between 3 and 5 in the afternoon is considered especially favorable for decisions or conversations you have been putting off. So here is where this leaves you. Have one honest conversation you have been avoiding, even if it is brief. Protect your spending for a few more days before making any big financial moves. Choose presence over your phone tonight, even for just an hour. And notice gently where your energy has been quietly low, not to fix it today, but simply to stop ignoring it. None of this requires you to overhaul your life by tomorrow morning. It just asks you to say the true thing while it is still small, rest when your body asks, and trust that the freedom you are circling is closer than it feels. Built one honest, unremarkable Sunday at a time.